Ma'am, step away from the vehicle.
Excuse me, I'm washing my car.
Huh, okay, sure. This your house?
Yes, I live here.
We got a call about a suspicious person. You got ID on you?
It's inside. I'm literally in my driveway.
You're making this difficult. Hands behind your back.
Watch what happens when you assume you know who you're dealing with. A woman in a t-shirt and shorts, holding a garden hose, washing her own car on a Saturday morning in North Carolina. Exactly what Officer Reynolds wanted to see. But here's the question. What do you do when the suspicious person is actually a licensed attorney? What do you do when Kendra Thompson has spent 12 years winning civil rights cases against police departments? Kendra Thompson was not just washing her car that day. She was standing in her own driveway, watching an officer break the law right in front of her. And every second of it was on his body cam. She filed her case in federal court, the Middle District of North Carolina. That arrest cost the department $15 million. Here is how it started. Officer Reynolds stepped out of his car. He looked at Kendra and said, "Ma'am, step away from the vehicle." She looked up, confused. "Excuse me, I'm washing my car." He scanned the area. "This your house?" "Yes, I live here." He stepped closer. "We got a call about a suspicious person. You got ID on you." She paused. "It's inside. I'm literally in my driveway." His hand moved to his belt. "I need to see some ID now, or we're gonna have a problem." She stood firm. "I don't have to show you ID on my own property." He stepped forward. "You're making this difficult. Hands behind your back." "Before I continue, let me ask you, have you ever been treated unfairly by someone in power? Drop your answer in the comments." Officer Reynolds had no idea who he was dealing with. Kendra Thompson was 38 years old. That morning, she looked like any other homeowner. T-shirt, shorts, garden hose, no uniform, no badge, just a woman washing her car. But Kendra was not just any homeowner. She graduated from Duke University School of Law in 2010. She had been practicing civil rights law for 12 years. Her specialty was police misconduct cases. She knew the Fourth Amendment better than most officers. Her track record was serious. 47 cases filed against police departments, 31 settlements won. Her firm had brought in $23 million in total settlements across North Carolina. She had even written training materials on constitutional rights, the same rights Reynolds was about to violate. Kendra had moved into this house 8 months earlier. It was her dream home, a quiet street, good neighbors, a place to raise her 2 kids. That Saturday morning was supposed to be relaxing. Her husband Marcus was inside making pancakes. The kids were watching cartoons. Her parents were coming over for lunch. She just wanted to wash her car before they arrived. She had no idea this day would become case number 48. Now here is what happened next. Officer Derek Reynolds had a reputation in this neighborhood, not a good one. He was 34 years old, 9 years on the force, patrol officer, on paper nothing special. But his file told a different story. In just 3 years, 7 documented complaints. Every single one involved black residents in mostly white neighborhoods. June 2021, Reynolds stopped a black man walking his dog at 7 in the morning. He called it suspicious behavior. The result, a verbal warning for Reynolds, nothing more. March 2022, he questioned a black teenager sitting in a parked car outside his own home. The caller reported a suspicious vehicle. The complaint was dismissed. They said Reynolds followed protocol. November 2022, Reynolds detained a black woman unloading groceries in this exact neighborhood. He said she matched a suspect description. Internal review found nothing wrong. August 2023, he demanded ID from a black contractor working on a house. Just checking, he said. His supervisor added a note to his file. That was it. The black families in that neighborhood had a name for him. They called him the welcomer. It was a bitter joke, because every time a black person moved in, Reynolds seemed to find a reason to welcome them with questions. But nobody in charge did anything about it. His supervisor signed off on every complaint. No discipline, no retraining, no consequences. That was wrong, and it was about to catch up with him. Reynolds was about to make the biggest mistake of his career, and the body cam on his chest was going to record every second. Type justice in the comments if you think 7 complaints should have been enough to stop him. Saturday morning, 9:47 a.m. Clear skies, 72 degrees, the kind of morning where you open the windows and enjoy doing chores. Oak Ridge Drive was a quiet street, a cul-de-sac in suburban North Carolina, nice lawns, American flags on porches, the kind of place where nothing ever happens. That morning you could hear a garden hose spraying water, birds chirping, a lawn mower running 2 streets over, kids playing basketball down the block, normal Saturday sounds. Kendra was in her driveway. Her Honda Accord was covered in soap suds. She had a sponge in one hand and the hose in the other. Her husband Marcus was inside making breakfast. Their kids, ages 8 and 6, were in the living room. Across the street, Mrs. Patricia Holloway was gardening. 2 doors down, Robert Chen was walking his dog. At 9:32 a.m., someone called the police non-emergency line. The caller said there was a suspicious person in a driveway on Oak Ridge, just standing there by a car. The dispatcher asked for a description. The caller said, "Black female, I do not recognize her." That was the entire reason for the call. Someone did not recognize their neighbor. 15 minutes later, Officer Derek Reynolds pulled onto Oak Ridge Drive. He saw Kendra standing next to her car, wet sponge, garden hose, soap suds. He did not wave. He did not introduce himself. He stepped out of his vehicle and said those words, "Ma'am, step away from the vehicle." If stories like this matter to you, hit subscribe right now. You will want to see what happens next. The exchange started simple. Reynolds asked, "This your house?" Kendra answered, "Yes, I live here." We got a call about a suspicious person. I'm washing my car in my driveway." Reynolds did not back off. "You got ID on you?" Kendra stayed calm. "It's inside. I'm literally standing on my own property." His tone shifted. "Ma'am, I'm going to need to see some identification." She knew the law. "I don't have to show you ID. I'm not driving. I'm not suspected of a crime. I'm washing my car." Reynolds pushed harder. "You're being difficult. You want to make this a thing." "I'm not being difficult. I'm telling you the law." "I know the law. I'm a police officer." Kendra did not back down. "Then you know I don't have to identify myself on my own property without reasonable suspicion of a crime." Reynolds had a choice right then. He could have walked away. He could have checked the mailbox. He could have knocked on the door. He chose badly. The call said suspicious person. That's my reasonable suspicion. Someone calling because they don't recognize me isn't reasonable suspicion. I live here. How do I know that? My name is on the mailbox. My car is registered to this address. My husband is inside. Reynolds stepped closer. His hand moved to his belt. "I'm not going to ask you again. ID now." Kendra stood her ground. "And I'm telling you, I know my rights." "You're making this very difficult. Turn around, hands behind your back." "You're arresting me for what?" "Obstructing an investigation." "But wait, there is more to this." Across the street, Mrs. Holloway stopped gardening. She walked to the edge of her lawn. Robert Chen pulled out his phone and started recording. Marcus heard raised voices and came to the door. He shouted, "That's my wife. We live here. What are you doing?" Reynolds grabbed Kendra's arm. She did not resist. She knew better, but she was shaking. He pushed her against her own car, the one she had been washing. The handcuffs clicked. What Reynolds did not know was that Kendra had been in this exact situation 47 times before, not as the victim, as the attorney. And her husband, he was already on the phone with their firm's investigator. This was not just an arrest. This was case number 48 being built in real time. Let me know in the comments, what would you have done in Kendra's position? Marcus Thompson stepped onto the porch. His phone was in his hand. Officer, I'm recording this. My wife is Kendra Thompson. She's an attorney, a civil rights attorney. Reynolds' face changed, just slightly, but the bodycam caught it. I don't care if she's the president. She's obstructing an investigation. Kendra was still in handcuffs, but her voice was steady. Officer, everything you've done in the last 6 minutes is on your bodycam. I haven't obstructed anything. I exercised my Fourth Amendment rights. You can explain that to the judge. I will, and I'll explain it to the federal court when I file the Section 1983 claim. I've done it 47 times before. I've won 31 of them. For the first time, Reynolds looked uncertain. This is where good people stepped up. Robert Chen called out from across the street. Officer, I've been recording since you got out of your car. She lives here. Everyone on this street knows her. Mrs. Holloway was already on her phone. I'm calling the police chief right now. I know Chief Martinez personally. This is outrageous. Marcus did not back down. I have the deed to this house inside. I have our marriage certificate. I have her bar card. What else do you need? 4 recordings captured everything that morning. Reynolds' bodycam on his chest, Robert Chen's phone from across the street, the Thompsons' Ring doorbell camera, Marcus' phone from the porch. Every word, every movement, every mistake Reynolds made. Marcus called 911 and asked for a supervisor. Sergeant Lisa Morales arrived at 10:23 a.m. That was 36 minutes after Reynolds first approached Ken. Run! Sergeant Morales reviewed the Ring doorbell footage on Marcus' tablet. Her face went pale. She turned to Reynolds. Derek, a word now. The 2 officers stepped away, but the bodycam still picked up pieces of what she said. No reasonable suspicion. Her own property. Do you know who she is? Reynolds tried to defend himself. She was being combative. Morales was not buying it. She's in handcuffs for washing her car. When they walked back, Reynolds was shaking. He uncuffed Kendra without making eye contact. You're free to go. Kendra rubbed her wrists. I know, I always was. Reynolds walked back to his patrol car. He did not say another word. But here is the thing about good neighbors. They do not just watch, they act. Mrs. Holloway walked over with a glass of water. Robert Chen asked if Kendra needed anything. The other neighbors came out of their houses. They had seen what happened. They wanted to help. Marcus held Kendra as she finally let herself cry, not from fear, from anger, from relief, from knowing exactly what was coming next. By the time Reynolds drove away, Robert Chen's video had already been uploaded to Facebook. The caption read, "Neighbor arrested for washing her car." Officer Reynolds was starting to understand how badly he had messed up. He had picked a fight with someone who had spent 12 years teaching police departments what the Fourth Amendment actually means. Someone whose neighbors recorded everything. Someone who knew exactly how to fight back. Drop a comment if you think the neighbors did the right thing by recording and speaking up. Chief David Martinez arrived at the Thompson house at 11:15 a.m. He had already seen the Ring doorbell footage. He had seen Robert Chen's video. It was on Facebook with 2,000 views and climbing. He knew exactly how serious this was. The chief personally reviewed Reynolds' bodycam footage. He interviewed Robert Chen, Mrs. Holloway, and Marcus Thompson. He pulled Reynolds' personnel file and saw the 7 prior complaints. He checked the original 911 call. The entire reason for this mess was 3 words: black female, I do not recognize her. That was it. That was the whole suspicious activity. Reynolds' story started falling apart fast. He claimed Kendra matched the description of someone suspicious, but the only description was black female. Kendra was washing her car in her own driveway. He claimed she was combative and obstructed his investigation. But the bodycam showed something different. Kendra never raised her voice. She never moved toward Reynolds. She never refused a lawful order because he never gave one. He claimed he had reasonable suspicion based on the 911 call, but the law is clear. A neighbor not recognizing someone is not reasonable suspicion. The Supreme Court said so in Terry versus Ohio. You need specific facts, not just someone does not look familiar to me. He claimed he did not know Kendra lived there, but her name was on the mailbox. Her car was registered to that address. Her husband told Reynolds 3 times. Every excuse fell apart. Chief Martinez made his decision right there. Officer Reynolds, you are on administrative leave, effective immediately. Reynolds' badge and weapon were collected on site. Internal Affairs opened an investigation that afternoon. The department put out a statement by 4 p.m. saying they were aware of the incident. Reynolds tried to defend himself one more time. I was following protocol. Martinez was not having it. Protocol doesn't include arresting homeowners for existing on their own property. She could have just shown me her ID. She didn't have to, and you knew that, or you should have. That was the moment Reynolds understood. He was not getting out of this one. Kendra was physically okay, but she was shaken. Her neighbors gathered around to support her. Mrs. Holloway stayed with her for an hour. I've lived here 30 years, the older woman said. I've never seen anything like this. Marcus kept his arm around Kendra. The support from the neighborhood meant everything that day. But the consequences were just beginning, because by the time Chief Martinez left Oak Ridge Drive, Robert Chen's video had 15,000 views. And Kendra's phone was ringing. It was her law partner. Are you okay? Because this is everywhere. If you believe officers should be held accountable, hit that subscribe button. More stories like this are coming. The video spread fast. By 11 a.m., Robert Chen had uploaded it to Facebook. The caption was simple, neighbor arrested for washing her car. By noon, 15,000 views. Local community groups were sharing it everywhere. By 2 p.m., 85,000 views. Someone posted it to Twitter with a new caption, she is a civil RIGHTS attorney. That changed everything. By 4 p.m., local news stations WRAL and WXII were running the story. The headline read, attorney arrested in own driveway while washing car. By 6 p.m., 500,000 views across all platforms. The hashtag Justice for Kendra was trending locally. By 9 p.m., CNN and MSNBC picked it up. The story had gone national. By midnight, 2.3 million people had watched Kendra Thompson expose Officer Derek Reynolds. The numbers kept climbing. Facebook alone had 1.2 million views, 89,000 shares, 47,000 comments. Twitter had 850,000 views, 34,000 retweets. TikTok re-uploads hit 3.1 million combined views. The comments were angry, and they were clear. One person wrote, she is a civil rights attorney and he still arrested her. Imagine what happens to the rest of us. Another said, this cop has 7 prior complaints, 7, and he was still on the force. Someone else commented, washing her car in her driveway while being black. That is literally it. And this one hit hard. The fact that she knew her rights perfectly and still got cuffed tells you everything. The NAACP and the ACLU both issued statements. Legal analysts called it a textbook Fourth Amendment violation. The police department tried damage control. They released a statement saying they were conducting a thorough internal review. It was too late. Reynolds deleted his social media accounts within 24 hours. It did not matter. Screenshots were everywhere. 3 days later, the department announced Officer Derek Reynolds had been terminated. But Kendra Thompson was not done, not even close. Share this video if you think others should see this story. 14 days after the arrest, Kendra Thompson filed her lawsuit. It was a federal civil rights case, filed in the U.S. District Court for the Middle District of North Carolina. The defendants were Officer Derek Reynolds, Chief David Martinez, and the city itself. The charges were serious: unlawful arrest, false imprisonment, violation of Fourth Amendment rights, failure to train and supervise officers. During discovery, Kendra's legal team dug into Reynolds' history. What they found was damaging. 7 documented complaints over 3 years, all involving black residents. 4 of those complaints specifically mentioned Reynolds demanding ID without legal basis. Internal emails showed supervisors dismissing complaints as within protocol. One email from a lieutenant said, "Reynolds is aggressive but effective. No action needed." That email became a key piece of evidence. It showed the department knew about the pattern, and they did nothing. The case moved fast. The evidence was overwhelming: 4 video recordings, multiple witnesses, Reynolds' own bodycam showing every mistake. Wait until you hear what the settlement was. The city decided not to go to trial. The risk was too high. The evidence was too clear. They settled for $15 million. $10 million in compensatory damages went to Kendra Thompson. That was for the arrest itself, the humiliation, the trauma. $3.5 million in punitive damages. That was to send a message: this behavior has consequences. $1.5 million for attorney fees and costs. Total $15 million. But the money was not the only consequence. Reynolds was terminated from the department. He was also decertified as a law enforcement officer in North Carolina. His name was entered into the National Decertification Index. That is a database that tracks officers who lose their certification for misconduct. Any department in any state that checks that database will see his name. His career in law enforcement is over. Chief Martinez was forced to resign. He had signed off on those 7 complaints. He had let the pattern continue. That cost him his job. The department had to make changes too: mandatory retraining for all officers on Fourth Amendment rights, new policy requiring supervisor review before any detention based on suspicious person calls. Body camera footage must now be reviewed within 48 hours of any citizen complaint. Reynolds issued a statement through his attorney. It said, "I regret any distress caused and maintain that I was following department protocol." The public response was not kind. Protocol to arrest someone for washing their car. Nobody was buying that excuse. Kendra Thompson said something different, something that mattered more. This was never about the money. This was about making sure no one else in this neighborhood or any neighborhood gets handcuffed for existing while black. "I knew my rights. Most people don't. That's what scares me." 2 weeks after the settlement was announced, Kendra Thompson held a press conference. She stood outside the federal courthouse. 200 people gathered. 15 cameras were rolling. The sun was bright. Her eyes were steady. She talked about the fear she felt that morning, not for herself, for her children. "My kids were inside. They could have watched their mother get arrested for washing a car. How do I explain that to an 8-year-old? How do I tell her that sometimes, in this country, you can do everything right and still be treated like a criminal?" She paused, then she spoke about what she had learned. "I've represented 47 clients who went through exactly what I went through. And finally, I understand something I couldn't before: the fear, the humiliation, the rage. You can know the law perfectly and still feel powerless when someone with a badge decides you don't belong." Her message to regular people was clear. You have rights. The Fourth Amendment protects you from unreasonable searches. You do not have to show ID on your own property without reasonable suspicion of a crime. Know your rights, record everything, and don't be afraid to fight back. Her message to police was just as direct. There are good officers, I've worked with them, but the culture that protected Derek Reynolds, that ignored 7 complaints, that has to end. Accountability isn't anti-police, it's pro-justice. She called for changes, mandatory de-escalation training, civilian oversight boards, automatic federal review of any officer with more than 3 complaints. She thanked her husband Marcus, her neighbors who recorded and spoke up, everyone who shared the story. Then she said something I will never forget. I was arrested for washing my car, but I'm standing here today because I refuse to let that be the end of the story. Silence protects systems, accountability changes them. Here is what this case teaches us. Black Americans are 2.5 times more likely to be stopped by police during routine activities than white Americans. That comes from the Stanford Open Policing Project. Kendra Thompson had everything most victims do not have: a law degree, years of experience, a husband who knew to record, neighbors who spoke up, money to fight. Most people who get arrested in their own driveway do not get a $15 million settlement. They get a mugshot and a record. That is the real problem. So let me ask you, should Officer Reynolds have faced criminal charges too? Should Kendra Thompson have needed a law degree to avoid being arrested for washing her car? Should we wait for the next wrongful arrest, or do we demand change now? Because if we do not demand accountability, if we do not share these stories, if we do not make noise, then we are just waiting. Waiting for the next person who gets cuffed in their own driveway, waiting for the next suspicious person call that ruins someone's day or their life, waiting for the next settlement that costs taxpayers millions instead of preventing the problem. Here is something that might surprise you. Reynolds faced no criminal charges. Qualified immunity protected him. He lost his job. He lost his career. But he never saw the inside of a courtroom as a defendant. The system still has gaps. Comment below if you think qualified immunity should be reformed. Tell me what you would do if this happened to you or someone you love. If you think stories like this matter, hit that subscribe button. We are going to keep exposing these patterns. We are going to keep telling stories about people who stood up to power. We are going to keep demanding accountability. Kendra Thompson was arrested for washing her car. She fought back with the law, with witnesses, with truth, and she won. But this is not just her story. It is our story. It is about whether we accept a system that handcuffs people for existing, or whether we demand something better. This is not over, and neither are we. See you in the next one.